Welcome friends to another installment of our summer video series, Fantastic Beasts and How to Draw Them. This will be drawing number 3. I'm Mr. J, and I'll be leading you through our lessons each week. It's my goal to show you that anyone can draw something cool. So we're just going to use a black pen and some simple lines. Today you'll see we're starting with a few shapes, and they're kind of weird compared to what we've done in the past. So we have one long, well, tall triangle. It's about twice as tall as it is wide. We have this other triangle where the bottom corner starts right about in the middle of the other triangle, but where the top kind of connects with the side of the other, and you see they overlap. And then we have this long oval shape that sort of hovers over both of them. Today, we're going to be using these shapes to draw something that has a different name depending on which fantasy universe we're in, but we're going to call it a treant today. That's what we call it in Dungeons and Dragons, which I mentioned last time. Or if you are reading the Lord of the Rings books in Middle-earth, we call these creatures Ents. But essentially, what we're looking at is a tree person of sorts. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is starting kind of right across from the bottom corner of this triangle. We're going to start drawing down on this line. And this is going to be the tree person's first foot. Now, if you think of the way that a tree sort of goes into the ground, it's kind of round, right, with some roots sticking out. So that's sort of what these feet are going to look like. So we're going to draw down. We're going to do a little bit of waviness to show the roots in the ground, but it's going to mostly just be trying to look like a circle here. So let's try it. Come down. Trees do not necessarily have straight lines, so we're going to sort of show that in the way that we draw. And then you see I did some wavy lines for the roots at the bottom. This is actually going to be a back foot. We're stepping forward a little bit here, so I wanted it a little bit flatter. And we're going to come up. And that's going to be one leg right there. Now we're going to have the other leg kind of coming forward a little bit, which means it's going to be down further. And maybe we'll make the roots a little bit more pronounced on the bottom of this foot. We're going to start up past this first line to show that this leg is in front. And we're going to come down to the bottom of that triangle and do our toes of tree roots just like the first one. So we're going to come down sort of like that. And then we'll do some tree roots like that. And we're going to follow, you see, right back up along the side of the triangle. My line didn't quite line up there. I didn't want my leg to get too wide, and that's okay. We'll just do it like that. And we're going to draw all the way up to sort of the just about the bottom of that triangle. Now the next thing we're going to do is this triangle right here. You're probably wondering what that's all about. This is actually going to sort of help us draw one of the treant's arms, and we're going to, it's going to be sort of bent in front of it. We're going to start by drawing some fingers. We sort of had 4 toes on the bottom of this foot. We'll do maybe 3 fingers. It doesn't have to have exactly the right number of fingers. But essentially, we're going to start a little ways away from the corner of the triangle, not too far. We're going to draw sort of like a banana shape for one of the fingers here. They kind of come back around. They're not going to quite connect though. We're going to draw another one, like that. And we're going to stop right there because there's actually going to be something in the hand of the treant here. But we're going to come back to this point where we started. And we're going to draw another little curve, sort of like that. This is going to be the thumb. And then from here, we're going to come back to that point, and we're going to sort of come up and around and down along the bottom of this triangle here. So we're going to start there, come up to the bottom of the triangle, continue out towards the corner, sort of like that. Now this is going to be the elbow, so we're going to have it come back up and around, kind of like that, and we'll stop for right this second in that particular spot. Now, because this is sort of going to be, the hand is sort of in front of the rest of the treant here, I just want to finish drawing that real quick, and what you'll see is in the hand, if we draw just a little circle that sort of hides behind the thumb a little bit, and then we're going to draw another little circle right there, sort of right above the thumb, attached to the other circle. And then we're going to do a little bit of an angle. It's kind of like a triangle. It's missing one side, and the corner is going to touch this circle. And you see, it looks like it's going to be a little bird in the hand of the treant right there. Now, the next thing I want to do before we sort of finish the body, because I want to make sure that we can draw everything in the front that needs to be in the front, we're going to come back up to sort of where, just above where this triangle touches the bigger triangle. And in this particular spot, we're going to start the face of the treant. So a little ways above that, maybe halfway in between the top of the big triangle and the top of the small triangle. Let's just start with an arch that's going to face downward, kind of like that. And now we're going to do on each side sort of a flipped upside down version of that same thing. So you see we go out and up, out and up. You see that's just another upside down arch compared to the first one. And then from there, why don't we just wrap that around a little bit. Wrap that one around a little bit. And that's going to be sort of the brow of the treant. And let's do another little arc right underneath the two sides. They're not going to touch in the middle, but they're going to come pretty close, and you'll see it's going to pass just over the side of the triangle here. I'm going to put them a little bit close together, sort of like that. And then again, they're not going to touch, but they'll be close, sort of like that. And that's going to be the underneath of the eyes. And while we're at it, these are going to be different. I'm not going to do the pupils and the iris like we have in all of our previous drawings. Let's just do, we're going to do thin, kind of, it's almost like a triangle shape. You see there's a point at the top, and it's a little bit flat at the bottom, but it's very thin. Looks like the corner of that is pretty close to the edge of that triangle. We'll do on the other side, sort of like that. While we're at it, let's just color them in real quick so that we don't have to worry about that later. So those are going to be the eyes right there. Now, the face of a treant is kind of weird compared to ours, so I'm just going to do two lines coming down for a nose. I'm not even going to put nostrils on it. It's going to be two lines coming down like that. And then sort of a little underneath that, we're going to leave a space in between those lines and what we draw next. But let's just do a little smile, and then a little piece of a circle that comes down underneath to make it look like the mouth is open a little bit. And it's going to look like this treant is pretty happy to have this bird hanging out with it. And I can't say I blame it. So next, what I think we're going to do is draw in a little bit of a beard. Why don't we? Of course, your treant doesn't need to have a beard. Your treant can come in whatever gender you want it to come in. Or maybe all treants in your world have beards. That's totally reasonable too. But we're just going to start with 3 sort of bumps right above the mouth, kind of like that. Now a treant's beard is kind of like vines hanging off of a tree, right? So it's going to come down, it's not even going to look like hair really. It's going to maybe even look more like fingers or tendrils kind of coming down off the bottom of the mouth here. I'm not even going to connect these 3 dots. I'm going to start off a little bit to the side, maybe even a little bit higher. And let's just do some kind of like tendrils. And then one more. And we'll come back up to the top. So now you can see how this arm, if we continue this way, right from sort of where the bird meets the thumb, we're going to come over here. There's going to be sort of the forearm, and then we're going to, from here, come back to sort of where the triangle meets the arm, the top of the arm that we just drew. And this is going to be sort of the side. We're going to come up and sort of flare out. And actually at this point, why don't we just keep going all the way up here. And you can see how this arm can attach right there. And we'll come with a little line right there to do the rest of the side of the arm, the upper arm. And that's the first arm coming down in front of our treant. On this side, we're going to continue inward and then kind of come out to show how the tree gets wider at the top, right? Although I'm going to stop for a second and we're going to draw in the second arm over here. I want to leave a little bit of space to show, you know, the way that the arm comes off the side. And we're going to come down. It doesn't need to look like anything in particular, frankly. So this arm is going to sort of be coming out from behind him. We're going to do 1 finger, 2 fingers, and a thumb, and kind of come up like that. And you can see, you know, its hands will, you know, change shape depending on how it needs to use them, right? Because it's sort of like its vines and branches can move in all sorts of directions. Now from here we're going to continue up just like we did on this side with an outward sort of direction like that. So that's 2 sides of the head. But before we finish and connect anything here, we're going to use this oval on the top. And perhaps you've noticed that this would be a perfect place for some trees on the top of this treant's head. So, or not some trees, but some leaves rather. So the way that I like to draw leaves is sort of just with a bunch of kind of squiggly lines kind of sticking out. Not unlike the top of the beard here actually, but they're going to be even a little bit messier than that. And I'm going to use this oval as just a guide of sorts. It doesn't need to be perfectly on the oval by any means. It's just to show me whereabouts I wanted to draw all of that. So I'm going to start probably at the top and kind of work my way around, and you can just sort of watch what I do. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect because leaves are have a tendency to look kind of messy from far away. So let's start at the top, and we're just going to go kind of like this. And I'm going to come back to the top just because, you know, I'm right-handed, so it's easier for me to move around this way. I'm going to show how there's some different layers is we're going to taper down a little bit. That means sort of angle downward to leave a little bit of extra space where we'll do another tuft after the fact. And why don't we just connect those. Like I said, we'll do an extra tuft at the top there. Maybe we'll do another extra tuft sticking out the bottom, and then maybe another sort of small one on that side. And now I like to further designate that these are leaves a little bit by doing sort of small little areas where I kind of replicate these squiggles, but only in small bursts kind of all around it. So we can do something like that. And I'm just keeping in mind, so on the left-hand side here, those are continuing to face to the left. These are a little bit towards the bottom, so they face towards the bottom. Just to show, you know, that it's all uniform and the leaves are going in the directions that they probably would. And then we'll hit the tufts a little bit. And those look a little bit like leaves, I think. So now we're going to do some branches that reach from the top of the treant's head up into the leaves, and we're going to do that by drawing lines down and then lines back up. And we're going to create kind of the space in between the branches, and as we go along each time we'll create a branch each time we do that, and we just need to make sure that we end up with the right amount of lines coming back so that this will be the edge, the end of the last branch there. So why don't we come down like that, and you can see this sort of goes up into that tuft perfectly. So all of our branches can sort of reach up into the leaves in a way that it makes sense that they would support the leaves there. But again, does not need to be perfect by any means. And then this one, we're going to kind of actually come up, and it looks like that tuft is sort of in the front of those branches, and you can see it reaches up there. So that's a nice little touch, I think. So now we certainly have the majority of our treant complete. So why don't we put our pens down for a second, grab our erasers, and I think it'll be really helpful actually to get rid of these pencil shapes, because it'll help me see they really affect the way that the front of the treant looks here, and it's kind of confusing me a little bit. So remember, the ink doesn't erase, so we can sort of go right over our lines a little. Excellent. So now let's add some embellishments. First and foremost, I think I'd like a little bit more going on with the beard here. So we're going to have a couple of tendrils sort of sticking out the sides. Maybe we'll have a couple come out the bottom to show some layering to the beard. And now treants, being trees, they have you know, lots of different leaves sticking off. So what I'm going to do is actually have a little branch kind of poking out, and I'm going to just do two little lines, and then I'm going to do two leaf shapes right off the corner there. He's got a little branch with a couple of leaves sticking out the corner of his elbow, and I'm going to go around and just do that a few different places. Just to kind of show that this is a creature that has lots of growth all over it. And in fact, what we can do is kind of create the same shapes around the beard. But actually on the beard, I'm going to do something else too. Let's draw a little circle right here. And then I'm going to do a bunch of like partial circles all around that to create a little flower growing in the beard. And why don't we do one more right here? And it's going to overlap these lines a little bit, but that's okay because once we're done, you're not even going to really be able to tell. I'm just going to come back and do a couple more leaves. Kind of like that. And attach that line right there. So another really important thing for us to do as we adorn our creature is to sort of designate that its body is made out of bark, right? So we're going to do that by essentially drawing just long lines that sort of run parallel to some of the lines of its body. And you can see, we could do lines that go in a couple different directions even, like that. And this is going to show how there's sort of wrinkles in its skin because of the way that the bark grows. And again, they don't need to be perfect. Your creature's bark skin is not going to look like somebody else's, and that's quite all right. And let's do one across the bottom here to sort of show that it's kind of stepping forward. So we're going to have like almost like its tree toes are curled, sort of like that. And the last couple things I think I'm going to do as we sort of put the finishing touches on our creature. Let's color in this bird so that it stands out a little bit more. And let's leave a little bit of a white space maybe if we are able, so that it looks like there's an eye. If it doesn't, that's fine, because you know what, this is a really tiny bird compared to this overall creature. But then let's do some other birds. Now if we just do some V shapes, sort of like that, you can see there's a little bit of a curve to the V. But this is sort of the universal symbol for a flying bird in the distance. So if we do that, it looks like there's some birds flying around it that would potentially even land, in the branches. Maybe somebody has a nest up there. You never know. So this is going to be our Treant for today, our fantastic beast. And again, the name changes depending on where you are reading about them. This is just how it's going to be spelled here for us today. This is how we spell it in the D&D universe. But remember that these beasts, these creatures, can certainly be called, maybe you could come up with your own name too. It doesn't even need to be the same thing exactly. Maybe we could spell this Treant to better match the way that we actually spell the word Treant, don't you think? So there you have it. That's our fantastic beast. thank you for tuning in. Make sure you watch some of the previous videos if you haven't already, and feel free to share with us on Facebook to let us see what it is that you were able to create. I'd really like to take a look. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Bye.